This is a deeper conversation in our country. And in some ways, I'm speaking as a member of my generation. I'm 38. I'm the youngest person ever to run in our party for U.S. president. And I can tell you what's certainly going on in our generation. I saw my generation's response to COVID. Usually it's the young people that are sticking it to the man. Here's the young people that are actually running to be compliant. What the heck is going on? It is that we are starved for purpose and meaning.
Hello, family. Welcome back to another episode of Journey to Harmony. I'm your host, Richard Harmon. Today, every week on Saturday, we will have Week in Review, kind of reviewing some of the most major topics of the week and discussing issues such as that. Today, we're going to open up with Vivek Ramaswamy, and he continues to completely blitzkrieg the entire nation as he is on every podcast. He's on every interview. He seems like he rejects no calls at all. For us who are watching, if you have a podcast, I would advise you to put in a request. I'm sure most likely you can probably get him on your show as well. All right, so Vivek, Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis were all at an event this past Friday, I believe, and they were just talking just a little bit about the values of the country and things that they see that are missing and things that are no longer in place that once were. I'm going to play a video here. We'll watch a little bit of that and come back and talk about it just afterwards.
One thing is, I do want to recognize outstanding governors like yours here, Ron, as well, holding the line on a craze that's spread across this country. The only thing I would add to, I think, the good points that both of them have made is that two core lessons. One is the next time we have a crisis, freedom of speech is most important, not in ordinary times, but in times of crisis. If you had been allowed to say that we shouldn't lock down those schools would have never been locked down. If you'd been allowed to say the virus originated in a lab in China, we would have known that much sooner and been able to take action based on it. And the second principle is medical freedom, that you get the choice to determine whether or not you take a vaccine, regardless of how that government pushed it through. And so those are the policy points. I think that there is something deeper, though, if we scratch beneath the surface. And we got to be careful not just to point at the government. A lot of accountability there. But we have to ask a hard question. What is it inside each of us that made us, maybe not the people in this room, but us as a society, what is it that made us want to bend the knee? Right, you think about, this is the stuff of Scripture. I picked it up in St. X High School, Catholic school in Cincinnati. You and I have talked about this, Bob. When the Israelites left the Pharaoh, they escaped from the Pharaoh, they're lost in the desert, yet to find the promised land. What do they say? We want to go back and be ruled by the Pharaoh. So we can spend our time talking about the Pharaoh, and that's important. But it's a lot harder to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what is it that made us want to bend the knee? And now COVIDism gone, is it any accident that climatism is now here?
All right, perfect. So Vivek seems to really have a way with words, and overall, he is a person who really commands a room. I had a chance to watch the full interview with him and Patrick Bet-David, and it was amazing just watching how dominant of a personality he was in person. We always hear clips, we see things here and there, but in the space of a lot of other alpha males and people who are naturally very commanding. He's a spirit and he is a presence that rises above them all. One of the questions that I wondered and I've considered, Vivek is a Hindu. It's his faith of belief. And my thought right now is, would he be the choice for the Republican candidate if he was a Christian? I think a lot of people, there's some thoughts overall, not bad or good. Same way if you go to India, if you go to China, many times they're not going to promote someone who is a Christian to the leadership of that particular nation. And so in the same way is it here with us in our country, is that many people still can't get around to the idea of having, in the highest office in the land of someone who is of Hindu origin. It's going to be interesting, because I've floated it a few times. Some other people have thought about it as well. Trump can go and select other people. There were some stories this week about him possibly considering Tucker Carlson as a VP to be running with, and that's cool and all. But if you want to win, a lot of times you need to have that overall majority. And while Trump is able to bring a lot of the MAGA base and maybe some other people from other areas to make sure that there isn't a close race, I think it would be great if him and Vivek Ramaswamy were able to join forces to come together as a team, and kind of set up that next baton passing for who it is that will be in that next space. It's going to be interesting as time kind of boils down, actually seeing Trump and Vivek in the same space, seeing how they interact, see how they deal with each other. Trump had a few uh, moments these past few weeks as he talked about Vivek and how he mentioned that he's a pretty good guy and he's a younger version, but he wants to keep the original in place as of now. I'm going to play like so. Additionally, for next, right, we had another event that happened this week. Xi Jinping from China came to California for the APEC conference. And then we all know how bad San Francisco has been with the homeless issue. We all know about the many different problems that the city is facing for the first time over the last 3 or 4 years. And California has had a net loss in terms of migration. People are rejecting the policies, they're rejecting the thoughts of California, and they're moving to different states. They're moving to Texas, they're moving to Phoenix, they're moving to Nevada, Las Vegas, and many people are upset because there's no action being done by the government. So what happens this week is that as the nation of China comes in, uh, you know, Gavin Newsom goes ahead and cleans the city up. He removes many of the homeless from in these areas, and he makes the place spotless for China. And it's kind of a real sense of hypocrisy. And not only that, does he go on and then he speaks about how he did it and that it is kind of what it is. So here, watch this video.
I know folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all those fancy leaders are coming into town. That's true because it's true. But it's also true for months and months and months prior to APEC, we've been having different conversations.
All right, perfect, right there. So there it is, right there again. The hypocrisy a lot of times that Democrats are facing. This week has been a serious challenge for the Biden administration. They are pushing so hard for the Israeli-Palestinian war and funding for that, and the base many times that were part of the riots that were happening in 2020 are now going against them. Everyone's preaching for a ceasefire. They're demanding that these actions be held accountable. And we're seeing right now again that the leadership, Gavin Newsom, and his overall desire for rulership, he's telling the people that I will clean the city up for those who I feel are important. And his actions are the same as they were during the pandemic. He was telling people to stay in their house, to stay locked down, and he was seen many times out and about at parties and at different events during the time where he was telling people that it was not safe for others to go outside. We live in a society right now where it's do as I say, not so much as I do, and the spending is just getting out of control in many areas. California is seeing a real issue right now as they're facing with a lot of these people who are leaving. A lot of the money, different businesses are leaving as well. We've seen the stealing, we've seen the theft, we've seen just some horrific views overall, and they're continuing to escalate. And we'll see exactly how this happens here just shortly. Okay, perfect. And finally, the last thing we want to talk about today is the spending that's going on in the country. So we as a nation right now are 33 and a half, 33, and three quarters of $1 trillion in debt. And this number is advancing at a rapid pace. What's happening is that production a lot of times bring in taxes. So the more production you have, the more people you can tax from. What's happening is the government's growing. A lot of the subsidies and a lot of these programs, whether it's welfare, whether it's food benefits, these things are making people more reliant on the government. And in some places, like we see in New York City, they've recently cut down their budget by 5% and looking to do another 10% or so over the next 6 months. So what happened is you've gotten people who are used to working, and you've gotten them used to being taken care of by the government. And now all of a sudden there's a cutback that's happening, and those people who have built up a habit expecting that they're going to be provided for by the government are no longer receiving that. And whether it's because of the influx of the migrants in NYC or some misspending, lack of pandemic money that is quickly drying up. Things are changing right now, and 2024 is going to be a very harsh year for a lot of people. The spending continues. The Biden administration is seeking to spend $100 billion. 660 billion will go to Ukraine, 14 billion to 14 billion to Israel, as well as some additional money for the border and for those who are in humanitarian issues. We all know what that money is for and why people are so adamant about pushing for it. Many of these senators, representatives are getting kickbacks as a result of lobbying for these particular issues. And the American people are kind of sitting around saying, why are we getting stuck with the bill when all of our dollars, all of our money is being sent overseas to a different area? This is some valid questions that many of us have to consider. Many people who were once, voted for Biden are now kind of moving to the point where they're considering voting for Trump. There's polls that came out here recently that talked about how Biden is receiving the least amount of favor and the least amount of support ever from a Democratic president. I think for almost 50 years, the Democratic Party has received almost 90% of the black vote. And for the first time, many people in the black community are realizing that we can't just sit back and just, keep voting this particular way. Times are getting harder, and my vote that I'm voting for you is not producing anything as a result. So I commend many people who are waking up. During the last, two elections, I stood up and voted and advised many people that I voted for Trump, and I and a few other people in my family were kind of ostracized as we spoke about the particular principles. Trump has his issues, mean tweets and all of these kind of sporadic behaviors, but the policies that they had in place, America First, no more wars, shutting off the border, all of these things are coming back. He seemed like he was years in advance as a result of those. But right now, those are the conversations that are being had by everyday people. The overall crossing of the border is advancing at a greater stage. The amount of money being spent, whether it's Chicago, whether it's DC, whether it's New York, it is obscene amounts of money. New York said they have about a $7 billion shortfall in their particular budget deficit. So as a result, they have to cut back $7 billion from people who are paying taxes for these particular issues that they may be supporting another group of people who have not invested into the overall infrastructure of the society. So we have a lot of things that we're dealing with as a nation right now. We have a lot of things that we're looking to speak about. 2023 is just about ending, and 2024 is going to be a doozy. There's likely going to be a recession called. As that recession is called, we're exactly going to see how exactly these people are doing. Many people have not been doing completely great. Many are still waiting for a housing crash that is yet to come, and we'll see exactly what 2024 holds. What are your thoughts on this? Please comment below. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good day.